Take command. Craig Hoffman, Logan Paulson. Thanks again to Robert Mays for joining us. Logan, let's switch over to the defense now and the holes that are being left where draft picks used to be. Emmanuel Forbes released on Saturday, so he is gone out. He's actually been claimed by the LA Rams. So it's always interesting that they went ahead and claimed him. The contract's not anything crazy. It's like $2 million a year. But the fact that they were like, yeah, we'll take that and make sure that we get him versus just trying to sign him on a league minimum for the rest of the year. Okay, cool. But good, good for Emmanuel. Hope it works out there. And then Mathis Sunday, former second-round pick, healthy scratch, replaced by Carl Davis, who was called up from the practice squad and played pretty well. So when you think of the holes where those draft picks are supposed to be, just how do you try to explain to people how difficult it is to do what the Commanders are doing, winning with such a dearth of talent from the primary source that you're supposed to get your best talent from?
Yeah, I mean, the way, I mean, and we talk about this in our draft shows all the time, is like when you draft, like your first and second round picks should be starters. Like that's really what you're looking for. And even with third round picks sometimes, I think Brian Robinson's a great example of that. You're looking for guys that are going to contribute significant minutes and really are the backbone of your team. And so, to not have Jamin Davis, to not have Emmanuel Forbes, to not have Chase Young, and again, like each one of those picks failed for different reasons or didn't work out here for different reasons. But those are, in my mind, three starters. And then to have the second round picks also not work out in certain instances, like Big Phil is, and I think that remains to be seen, so we can kind of keep an eye on that. But I think that's really what you're talking about. And so everyone says, oh, where's the other corner opposite of St. Juice or Mike Sanderstill or Noah Igbenogany? Where's that fourth piece that's really dynamic? And you trade for Marshawn Lattimore, that in theory, in principle, should have been Emmanuel Forbes. Whether you take him in the first or second round, we can talk about where he was selected later on. But I think that's really ultimately what I'm looking at here. And so for them to essentially, the Commanders, Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, this whole front office, to have found a way to make this work, to make this work at a pretty high level the last couple of weeks with kind of free agent signings. You mentioned Carl Davis, like that, he's picked off of practice squad, moving your second round pick to outside corner, finding ways to help Benjamin St. Juice, getting a kind of retread Jeremy Chin to play better. Like, it's all really good. And I think it shows you the power and the importance. And we talked about this with Robert a little bit, like the idea that talent is the main driver, but being able to identify talent and saying we can make this work in our defensive philosophy and defensive perspective, I think has been really like a masterclass by Adam Peters and Dan Quinn and their relationship and their ability to communicate what they need and why they need it.
Yeah, I think part of it, there's two main points that I think I take out of what you just said. And hopefully I don't forget the first one while I talk about the second one. The second one, which is piggybacking right off the back of what you said, like, why was Ron Rivera bad at this and why is Adam Peters good at this? I think it's because they clearly identify, like, one group clearly identified the wrong things and looked for them. The other group clearly identifies the right things and looks for them. Adam Peters and company are looking for a certain attitude and play style and attention to detail and like work ethic and all of those types of intangible, immeasurable things. And of course, like, they want guys that are fast and strong. And, we kind of joked during training camp, you could see out on the field who are the Adam Peters guys and who are the Ron Rivera guys, because the Adam Peters guys were bigger. So it's not like they're not looking for great athletes. I mean, Jeremy Chin's a monster. Like, Frankie Louvu, like, explodes when you watch him in person, or it explodes off the tape. So it's not like there isn't great physical characteristics, but there's also a prioritization of those things coming to life in the game. And I think Ron at times like looked for, hey, Emmanuel's got great length. Chase has like his measurables are great, and Chase is a hard one to criticize because I think a lot of people would have taken him where they did. But Jamin, like, incredible measurables, but there's a lot of football processing stuff where he didn't play like those incredible measurables with consistency in college, and he barely even played in college. So I think the ability to find what you're looking for and know what you're looking for to be able to find it in the first place is the huge separator in terms of good talent evaluation and not good talent evaluation.
Well, I think the other thing too is, like, we can be critical of Ron, and I think rightfully so, but I think there's a reason teams, coaches, GMs have moved away from the coach GM as the same person model It's for this exact reason. It's because they are two distinct jobs. Like I went to a thing Big 100 did where Adam Peters was talking, and they were talking about how he came up with Bill Belichick and the scouting process and how he kind of learned and got his background in this really competitive, really kind of intense environment in New England. And he's like, the whole point of scouting is not necessarily like talent identification. Coaches now with PFF and all these different media services, they can identify talent fine. They don't need your help identifying talent. Like I've had a bunch of conversations with friends at the Common. They're like, we don't need scouts to tell us if they can play football. I can see that with my eyes. What a scout needs to do is all the other stuff you were just talking about. And it's my job as the GM or the assistant GM, because I think Lance is doing a great job of this also, of taking that information and then getting it to the coaches and being like, hey, this guy is a commander. This guy's not a commander. And redlining their list. And then when you give them the list, the coaches the list, they can tell you who they want to work with. Like, and that's the beauty of the new system and the new model, right? The scouts part is the other part. And I think Adam, he said something that I thought was really interesting. It's like, when I was in New England, it was like, can I find that one detail, that one nugget, that one piece of extra film, whatever it is, a conversation with the janitor about him cleaning, whatever it is that gives me that information. And that's why it's two jobs, is because that's unrealistic for Ron, to have to coach and manage, like we just talked about, all the responsibility that the head coach has in the interview we just did, right? They have so much responsibility. And then say, oh, I'm also going to distill all this information that the scouts bring and make excellent decisions about personnel and evaluation. Like that, think about that, man. That's the draft. That's free agency. And think about all the free agents that they have brought in from practice squads, from here, Noah Brown, like all these different pieces. Like, it's unrealistic to expect one person to be able to do that. A guy, and especially a guy who's recovering from cancer. So, like, there's a lot going on there. So I think this is, again, we talk about the changes in the organization. Dan Quinn, great change. But Adam Peters as a separate entity that is working together with Dan is maybe the biggest add, and you see his talent when it comes to some of this stuff.
Right. When I don't know if funny is the right word. The ironic part of this is like, Dan goes to Adam with like, hey, I need this for the football team. Yeah. And obviously Adam has thoughts on that too. But like there is a cohesion of, I am looking for X, go find me X. Adam comes back with X. And Adam and his staff come back with X. Ron was the same person. Ron was like, I need X. Let me go find X. Couldn't find X.
It's hard, man.
It's really hard because they're two different things. Being able to identify X and going to find X are two different things. And by the way, Logan, if I were to tell you, just to kind of wrap up and kind of encapsulate the challenge of what they've done here to fill these holes and make it work to the extent that they have. If I were to ask you like the three biggest needs on this team, like your wish list of things moving forward,
sure,
what would they be?
That's a good question. Probably corner, receiver,
and defensive end.
Defensive end, probably.
And a dynamic pass rushing defensive end.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Chase Young, Jahan Dotson, Emmanuel Forbes. Like you want to encapsulate how damaging it is to a team to miss on first round picks. Look at exactly what the Commanders need right now. And maybe they filled the Emmanuel Forbes hole with Marshawn Lattimore. TBD, and hopefully he's back after the bye. But number 2 receiver, they came into the season hoping Jahan Dotson would be the dude they drafted him to be. Didn't wind up being that. They shipped him out before the season even started. Defense has made it work. Luvu's obviously been a huge part of their pass rush, but if they had, a Bosa, like Adam had in San Francisco, or Myles Garrett, or whoever, pick your guy TJ Watt, how different would this defense be? That guy was supposed to be Chase Young. And, obviously on down the list, corner, we talked about Jahan. They had Bobby is a phenomenal signing, but could Jamin have been helpful? Of course. So on down the list. And not to mention like some interior beef. That'd be somewhere like, hey, can we get a run stopping defensive tackle? Great use of a second round pick. Fedarian Mathis, not working out. So I think that encapsulates just how challenging it is, because the exact holes they need to fill are ones that should be currently filled by people that have already been drafted. And there's just limited roster space, limited cap space to do those things. And so when you miss, it hurts a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't have said it better myself. And I think the other thing is I had a bunch of people ask me, why are they treating Fedarian this way? Or why did they cut Forbes? And I think it's important to take the name away and say, is it surprising that they cut a sixth corner? No. Is
No.
it surprising that your fifth rotational defensive tackle is inactive one game? No. Like none of that is surprising, right? It's just take away the name, take away where they were drafted. Like that's how this organization sees those players. And that's why you get these guys moving on and kind of being treated differently. And I think that's got to be a shift in mentality from the previous. I mean, this is maybe a larger conversation we can have sometime next week. But I remember when a new coach comes in, it starts over. Like I don't care who you are. It's not like, oh, I'm the first round pick, I'm going to be the guy. It's like I have to prove to you that I'm the guy, and it's not their job to make it go. Like I didn't invest anything in you as a player, right? So it's up to me to show you. And obviously, there's been some issues with guys from the former regime showing that, hey, this is important to me and I want to be good and all those kind of things. So I think it's just to give some context there as well.
Yeah, it's not because you were drafted by Ron, we're going to try to get rid of you. I mean, Quan is one of their guys they highlight all the time. There's a couple of Cosme. They just gave a massive, like the one guy they've extended, the one guy they've put big money in is Sam Cosme. So, Terry is by all intents and purposes the captain of this team. And he was 2 regimes ago. So it's a matter of like substance. Hey, are you doing the right things? Are you playing the right way? Are you doing what we ask? And the guys that aren't here anymore, and the guys that are contributors in the ways that the people that drafted them had hoped they would be. All right, that's our show for today. Again, we love to hear from you, and we're giving you a chance to do that in 2 different ways. One, if you have questions, our mailbag episode is next week. So go to hoffmanshow.com, fill out the contact link, and you can email your question. Also, I put out a post on Blue Sky. If you want to follow me there, at craighoffman.bluesky. Whatever the hell they're doing over there. Just use the search bar, search my name. You'll find me. And then on Instagram, you can also hit Logan_Paulson82, or me at Hoffman.sports, Hoffman.sports on Instagram. So submit your questions any of those ways, and we'll do a mailbag on Tuesday. Now, we'd also love your opinion on the show. And for that, we are willing to give you a fairly significant discount on our brand new Take Command merch. So go to hoffmanshow.com/survey, fill out the listener survey that we have for you there. And then at the end, you'll get a link with a code for 50% off our Take Command merch, which is available thanks to the good, fine folks at Breaking Tea. For Logan, I'm Craig. We'll see you for that mailbag on Tuesday. Thanks again to Robert Mays. Have a good one, everybody. Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command, which has a brand new home.
That's right. You can watch on YouTube at the Team 980.
You can also listen to full episodes in the free Odyssey app, which is now enabled with Apple CarPlay. So we'll just, follow you around.